House Leader, third party.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. We are in a humanitarian crisis in BC. Indigenous children are drastically overrepresented in our child welfare system, and once pulled into it are on a path to further hardship and pain. The younger they are when they are taken into care, the longer they stay in care, the worse their outcomes, the more likely they are to later lose their own kids to the system. The intergenerational impacts of the system are severe and tragic. As stated in the recent MCFD and RCY joint report, 80% of the women who access pregnancy outreach program services have lived in foster care type arrangements themselves. We have to break the cycle. We have to stop separating infants and mothers. Through you, Honourable Speaker, to the Minister of Children and Family Development, does she recognize that protecting the maternal bond is key to breaking the apprehension cycle? And if so, where is the funding behind the action plan?
Minister, Children and Family Development.
Thank you, Speaker, and I want to thank the member for this question. I know she's really passionate about this issue and really concerned, as am I. I know that breastfeeding has tremendous benefits for the child's health and development and in building that bond between mother and child. And as a mother who nursed one of my children and couldn't nurse the other one, I know how important the mother-child bonding is, whether you're breast or bottle feeding. This spring, I spoke to the representative of Children and Youth about what more we could do to protect and enhance that mother-baby bond. And I'm pleased to say that we do have this joint report between our ministry and the representative. So we are working on clear and specific guidelines for social workers to support new mums, and they are working with them to promote mom and baby bonding when they are feeding their newborn. There are some fantastic resource models that are already in place in some communities in BC, and that they do support pregnant and parenting mothers with substance abuse issues. So we're going to evaluate the programs that already exist and look at the developing programs in which mothers and babies at risk can get wraparound services, the support that they need in a safe and secure setting. And we also know that First Nations and the Métis are very concerned about this as well. And before we complete our plans for change, we want to make sure that we consult fully with them and ensure that we bring on the First Nations Leadership Council in that consultation and other communities as well. So we'll be doing just that, seeking their feedback and ideas, and we would welcome a similar opportunity from the member and any member in this House who's passionate about this issue.
House Leader, third party on a supplemental.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. There are indeed effective programs that exist right now. Fair Square and Sheway both consider the pregnant mother or the mother and infant as a team, which I think is the impetus of the MCFD RCY report on breastfeeding. It's saying we can't just look at the infant as one individual and the mother as a completely separate entity. Luckily, we already have very concrete examples of these programs that successfully embody that approach, and we have many communities that want them implemented right now. Unfortunately, the action plan fails to recognize that. Saying that we're going to continue to review and develop and research and explore doesn't change the lives of these women and their baby right now. With 500 infants apprehended every year, it perpetuates the cycle. We need urgency that matches the crisis. What was needed in that action plan was funding and implementation. Through you, Honourable Speaker, to the Minister of Children and Family Development, the concrete outcomes the Minister is trying to achieve based on what is outlined in the report won't be achieved by this action plan. They will be achieved by funding the models that work. So how specifically will she address this discrepancy?
Minister, Children and Family Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I have visited Fair Square and Sheway. They're excellent programs. They provide incredible services to young mums before they give birth and after they give birth to assure that they continue that mother-child bond, whether they're breastfeeding or bottle feeding. It's a service that I'd like to see expanded across the province, and it's something that communities have come and talked to us about. At the same time, we need to make sure that we have the discussions with our Indigenous partners to ensure that communities across the province also have the involvement in the child welfare decisions that are being made. And to that end, we have signed agreements with 3 First Nations, with the Wet'suwet'en, the Shewepem, and the Métis, to start that implementing their jurisdiction to the child welfare in those nations. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that the work that's being done by the communities right across the province that want to work together to ensure that we can implement the recommendations that were made by this excellent report, but to ensure that we're taking into consideration the concerns and have the ability to make sure we talk to the people that want to make sure that we're implementing the right recommendations. And
Thank
I'm
you,
looking forward
Minister.
to that, doing that, Mr. Speaker.
Member Prince